Delta Force, an anti-terrorist action picture starring Chuck Norris, in a story that combines today's headlines with yesterday's movie cliches. At times, I couldn't help but watch the film, but at other times, boy, I thought it was a terrible waste of film, trivializing very real tragedies. One of the scenes I didn't enjoy, simply on the human level, is this early scene where the Arab hijackers take over a plane filled with what looks like the crew of Airport 1977, but it's not really funny, not at all.
This is a hijack! Heads down! Heads down! Heads down! Everybody down! This is a hand grenade! Heads down! You do not know exactly as we say! Put your hands on your heads! Put your hands on your heads! We are prepared to die. Do not provoke me.
Yes, they've even got George Kennedy. You may have seen him in the aisle there from the Airport series, and a whole bunch of Jewish parody couples played by Lainey Kazan, Joey Bishop, Martin Balsam, and of course Shelley Winters. Now with her in the film on the plane, I thought the plane was going to crash in the water, capsize, and we see Poseidon Adventure 3. Now, not all of the film is that corny or tasteless. There's also routine action picture stuff when Chuck Norris and an elite troop of American soldiers called the Delta Force, a variation on the Dirty Dozen, of course, steal into Beirut and confront the terrorists directly.
Oh, Jesus. Pete. You know the way to the airport?
Yes, Major.
You get the hostages out of the truck and put them in our vehicles. The colonel will be waiting for you at an orange glow behind the airport. Don't stop for anything, you understand?
Yes, sir.
I'll take your bike.
What about you, Major?
I've got some business to finish. Tell the colonel not to wait for me.
Oh, damn, too much blood here, too much blood.
That was sort of like the dialogue in Clan of the Cave Bear. Well, and that scene was actually a rip-off of another Chuck Norris scene, that mano-a-mano confrontation at the end of Missing in Action 2. Now, I found those scenes unexciting and the terrorist material demeaning to the gravity of real-life events it's trying to depict. I think the subject of terrorism is terribly important, so that frivolous movies about it are wildly inappropriate at this time. So I didn't much care for the Delta Force.
I disagree with you. I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was an efficient action picture. I thought it was entertaining. I did not think it was demeaning to the idea of the hostages and the fact that they were kidnapped by terrorists. In fact, I thought, you always talk about how you like movies that tell you how things are done. Yes. I thought it was interesting in terms of the fact that the Delta Force, which is a real group that's really called the Delta Force, incidentally, and not just a movie ripoff of the Dirty Dozen. I found it interesting how they worked, how they tried to infiltrate the terrorist positions. I also felt, oddly enough, I mean, when you see Shelley Winters and George Kennedy there, you think it's going to be stereotypes, that their performances and all of the hostages' performances were restrained and interesting. I didn't feel they were parodies.
Well, I mean, I just saw that broke ranks with something that should have a documentary-like feel. When I see those faces, you know what I think? I think that the producer said, gee, I can hire all these name actors, I can sell the film around the country better and get my money recouped. And that's what happens with that. If you're going to shoot it documentary style, there's a great movie to be made, Roger, really, about terrorism. It's an important subject. This is not a great movie about terrorism.
The fallacy in your argument is that if you have Lee Marvin and Chuck Norris in a movie, you don't need to have Martin Balsam in order to sell it around the world. So maybe he just thought they were interesting actors to have. Another good actor in this movie, Robert Forster, who plays the lead terrorist. It took me half the movie to realize who he was, and I've seen him in lots of other movies. A good performance. I think you're missing the boat. This was interesting to me because it gave me the illusion that it was going behind the scenes of that TWA hijacking.
To me, this was just going behind the scenes of deal-making in Hollywood and how action pictures are made on subjects that are important
So you
and
were
trivialized.
you were never excited.
I was never excited. I was disappointed.
You said though that at one point you did kind of get excited in the movie.
No, at one point I watched when people are getting beat up in the movie, when Shelley Winters and her husband are getting slapped across the face. I watched and I felt bad.
In that case, we have totally different reactions
You
to
got
this
it.
movie.
You
Thank
got it.
Decision, though, on Chuck Norris and Lee Marvin and the Delta Force. I thought it was a superior action movie. Gene thought it trivialized an important issue.